If someone's burnt out and their nervous system's cooked and they're overwhelmed and they're not sure where to look, you just got to put in the hard work. You just got to keep making calls and you're trying to stack on top of a system that is already at capacity. So even if that was to yield results, there's more demand now placed on this person. But if they haven't built the system or the tools to increase their capacity to hold that demand, and if they haven't taken a break or have been intentional about their practices and protocols, what happens? Crumbles.
Lincoln Westerman, corporate athlete coach working with Australia's top operators.
He's here to show you how to break free from the system that's burning you out.
So you stop sacrificing your health, your relationships, and your sanity for goals that were never really yours.
Last podcast, I didn't shut up about what game you're playing. It still rings true to me today. Asking yourself the question, why am I doing this? What will this allow me to experience? What will this $1 million GCI goal that I've set, which is completely arbitrary, what will that allow me to experience? What does that allow me to buy? Sure, it's going to buy you freedom. Sure, you're going to have more money. Sure, you can do some more holidays, but what does that then allow you to experience? I used to journal every day and I used to write freedom of expression at the end of every page because that was the most important thing to me at the time, was being able to express freely who I was, my authentic self, after being in real estate where I felt like I needed to be like this. I wasn't forced to be like that. It was like breaking free. That was the lesson. It was like this kind of like, I can change this if I want. I can change, I can be, I choose. It's a choice. Everything's a choice. It sounds obviously like so simple, but like that was the profoundness of like all of it, was like, I can choose how I want to be.
For the people that are listening that maybe are going through a pain point, they're overstimulated, what's one piece of advice you would share to that person now?
That's a good question.
Welcome back to another Both Sides podcast. Today I'm actually really excited because I've got a friend and a past guest, Lincoln Westerman, aka the Big Link. Brother, the reason today is exciting for me is we had obviously our first podcast in Bali and now we're in Byron Bay, Australia. And it's awesome to see and connect again on the podcast because, mate, you are someone that's what we'd call the modern corporate athlete, aka Mocha, which is your business you run where you coach and train high performers and people that are aspiring to be the best they can be in business, but also life. And I think what's really inspiring for me, and the reason I would love to have you back on, Link, is that because I've interviewed some of the top operators and I see some of their pain points on and off air, I think there's definitely demand for change in our industry in real estate, but also outside of real estate holistically. There's a lot of people that are living other people's versions of success. They're maybe not structured when they should be. They're a bit lost in maybe the social media hype. And we're just chatting off air, you know, one thing that a lot of podcasters do is they say to the person, what's your best piece of advice for here or that? And you're quite against a lot of these traditional forms of communication. And I'd love to provide a lot of value today to our audience who are looking to build a life by design, improve their business performance, their personal self-esteem, how they operate as an individual, whether it be health and fitness, sleep, relationships, and just really unpacked your philosophy around these things, mate, because you having been in real estate, gone overseas, done your breath work, done so many different things holistically, you've got, and trained some of the best, you've got this unbelievable perspective and wisdom that can be shared. So I hope everyone can really take notes. I've even got my notebook and I usually don't have notes with me, but the reason I want to have notes today is because there's going to be lots of frameworks and goal that we can implement as of today, which can impact and transform our lives. So, mate, welcome back to the Both Sides podcast.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And thank you for that intro. That was really nice.
You're welcome, man. Congrats on being a new dad, by the way.
Thank you.
Little H-man is a
Little
champion.
H-man, yeah.
Where I would like to start today is on the first podcast, people, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, related to how you were quite open with your story, which was really deep in the trenches of real estate. And then you had this experience with a psychedelic, which transformed and changed a lot of things for you. I'd love to bring us back to the story of Lincoln and really unpack who you are and what it is you do and why you do it, and start from there, and we'll build out the frameworks as we go. So, Link, could you really share who you are today and why it is you do what you do?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, I was just go-karting on Saturday, and I was watching these carts go around, and I felt this childlike energy come about me, this competitive spirit, and it took me back to basically my childhood growing up with motorbikes, BMX, like all the sports, rugby league, it was extremely competitive. So I think by nature I'm extremely competitive, and I've had to learn how to harness that competitive energy into a way that is actually going to be productive for me in a commercial sense, but also like fun as well. That's not going to get me injured. So I think business was a good avenue for that. Real estate was a good avenue for that because I could funnel that energy into something. Looking back, would I have done things differently? Probably. Like, I think I jumped around a lot. Like, I jumped from sport to sport. I went to 7 different schools.
7?
6 or 7 different schools, and had to, make new friends and learn different culture and hierarchies from a young age. So I sort of became a chameleon. And within that, I joined various different sports, and I probably didn't commit 110% to one for long enough. And that's probably like my biggest regret. So getting to know me is like, yeah, I'm a competitive, intense human. And I'm also very caring, loving, and I like to think kind, but intense. And I love that. I love that about me. So I think, my story is like, I think everyone goes through this journey for themselves, right? Of finding out who they are. So for me, like, I like to think of myself as someone that is very intentional. I try and seek out new experience. I'm very curious, and I want to give it my all. I want to give life my all. And I want to see what life's got to give. It's interesting though, like having Harvey just recently, he's 7 months old. It's changed my perspective on how I live. I'm far more fearful at the moment, actually. Like, I think about death a lot. I've been thinking about it because how I show up, how I drive, surfing, snowboarding, when I was just in Sumatra surfing 10-foot waves, in the back of my mind, I'm now considering Harvey, and what do I want to be like for him? What's the role model that I'm setting for him? So I'm changing, I'm evolving. So like, to say, who are you, is a hard question to answer. In fact, I'm probably not going to, because it's evolving. I'm still figuring out who I am. Like, just being in this conversation, having like speaking now, I'm still figuring that out. And in the intro, you said, like, you've got many different perspectives, and like, yeah, I have got perspectives, and everyone has perspectives. I've just chosen this path to share my perspective on life. And it seemed to work really well. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's provided me with a sense of flow, and that flow has given me a sense of abundance.
Talk to me about flow. What do you mean by flow? What is flow?
I think flow is a felt sense that is deep, deep presence and connectedness and aliveness. And it is hard to describe because it is in flow. It's a different sense from your normal consciousness state.
The reason I ask, Link, is because from my experience anyways, I've experienced life in and out of that flow state. And it's always, for me, when I'm in flow, present living, things naturally improve. Work, business comes out of thin air. I come to Byron, we're chilling at the beach, let's do a podcast. It flowed. When you're coaching these high performers, are most of them in flow, or is your work getting them out of flow into it?
I think there's both. I think being in a sense of flow the whole time is dangerous.
Dangerous?
Well, because like you still have to take intentional actions in ways that aren't fun, aren't comfortable, and that's not particularly flow for me. That's not how I associate flow. Like, doing hard things, I might be able to get myself to a sense of flow within it. Like, if I'm getting into an ice bath, or getting, for example, in Finland, when it's -10 outside and I'm getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, it is dark, no one's around, there's no one there to talk to, and I take myself down onto the ice, crack the ice and get in. Am I wanting to do that? No. Am I in flow? Not really. But I get in and I do the hard thing because I know that at some point that's going to give me a benefit. So like, there's still importance of having to do things we don't want to do. And that's not necessarily in flow, but I think if we're in if we're too much in this camp of, thinking, right, then it can be detrimental to our progress. But if we're too much in flow, then I believe that we're not also spending time in things that are also going to be moving the needle. Like in business, managing people. Like some people are in flow and they manage people, for sure. That's great. That's their zone of genius. Some people aren't. A lot of the high performers that I work with, they're actually not that great leaders. They've been in the business for themselves. They want to make money. They want to call people. They want to hustle. They want to do the deal. Boom, see you later. When it comes to managing a team, that's a learnt behavior. And maybe they can find flow in that sense of learning. So I believe that there's both. I can't remember exactly what the question was that you asked, but that's how I think about, high performers is like, I think if you're too much in your head, right, getting back into your body is important, right? Because you can find groundedness, you can calm yourself, you can become centered. But if you're too much in your body, too much in flow, you can become a spiritual sort of monk that is not taking any action in a commercial sense. So there's both. But as back to your point, if we can find a sense of flow as opposed to force more than having to push things, I think that's where abundance comes from. That's where this sense of magnetism comes from. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And when I hear you, can you teach that in people? And what I mean by that, is there a framework to develop flow? Is there a structure you run people through each week so they can set up their day for success, both to stretch and do the ice bath, but then also be in a state of presence where they can just be?
Well, I'll ask you, how many agents have you interviewed that are high performance, that are sitting across from you preaching hard work? Have you asked them the question, how much fun do you have that's not real estate?
Really good question. I would say, honestly, a lot of people that are the top 1% are there because they've made the choice to sacrifice other areas and double down on the things that, the actions that when you do the actions get a result. I think that process is where they find the fulfillment rather than doing things outside of that to get that sense of fulfillment. So I'd say most of them aren't doing things outside of work to derive that sense of happiness. I think their happiness is derived from doing what they do, and they get momentum spikes. So like an agent, like you said, does a deal, that gives them that sense of momentum and happiness to transpire into the next activity. However, what I've observed is that you can get caught in that trap, and the trap being that that process requires a certain fuel source and stress on the body. If that's your only mechanism of deriving this sense of fulfillment and happiness, that's where I see a lot of these agents develop illnesses. Their relationships maybe aren't where they want or should be. You can get caught in this kind of destination addiction of that fulfillment there. So it's interesting you speak to this, and I'd love to hear your perspective. I think if you really want to be the best, you've got to kind of do what's required to get there. But at the same time, I'd ask yourself, is that what success is for you? Because for me, that's not. I've had to, for example, the last 6 weeks I've been on a sprint, and I've sacrificed everything else for this sprint period, and have realized in that process that that's not success to me. Although it moved the needle further faster, I sacrificed that flow. I was busy getting there.
Yeah. I mean, you make an interesting point, but I think what I was speaking to, right, because there was a few words that you said fulfillment, and then you said happiness. But I just asked about fun. And then you moved it on to fulfillment and, needing to be, doing things at the top, and they love it. But I'm more referring to, like, I think when people have fun, they're in a sense of flow.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So it's like not necessarily that they need to have fun to have happy, or they're not happy because they're working so hard and they love. That's like a different set of questions. The question is, like, I think when most people have fun doing something outside of a work basis, they can find themselves in a sense of flow.
Yeah, I agree.
And their mind, their brain can switch off.
Agreed.
Right? And so having a switch off, a pattern interrupt, I think is really important.
So would I.
Does that make sense? So it's like, and then the success and happiness, like that's a different conversation.
Thing. I'd say a lot of them get that fun or that reset from exercise, whether it be gym, Pilates, something that takes your awareness away from work into another activity. where you can switch off from that to come back.
See, I don't necessarily see it that way. I think a lot of the people that I work with, they're not finding exercise this like amazing fun. I think at some point it becomes fun, but it's more like I need to do this because I feel shit.
Yeah.
I don't look how I want to look. I'm not feeling how I want to feel. I want to feel better in the morning, so therefore I go to the gym. I don't think they're going like, you know what, I want to have fun, I'm going to the gym.
Yeah.
You know, I think if you asked any of them, would you prefer to go to the gym or would you prefer to go snowboarding or surfing or play tennis or play paddle? I think a lot of them would probably choose the fun, like jiu-jitsu. So the reason I bring that up is because one of the questions that one of the interventions that I like to work on is like bringing fun back into their lives. And that starts from just creating some space outside of their calendar that's got nothing to do with thinking or needing to be somewhere or be someone or achieve, accomplish. For me, it's like competitive sport. I just love to be in that environment. I can let off steam. I was playing paddle with Mitch Lambert, who just moved back to the Gold Coast to start Pazette Matheson as a director. Mate, we were bantering the whole time and it was fun. I wasn't trying to be a coach. I wasn't trying to be this version of Lincoln that has wisdom. Like, no, I was just being myself, chatting a bit of, bit of shit, having fun. So I think like that's probably what's missing because I think a lot of like, when you think about the top 1%, I listened to a few podcasts recently and a few interviews. I think the very top 1% of 1% actually find the fun in the game. But a lot of the guys I work with, like they enjoy the deal, they enjoy the chase. Do they enjoy making calls? I would say not really. They learn to justify in their head that it's fun because it's easier to do the work and it's required to do what needs to be done. But I don't think they're sitting there going like, can't wait to make calls. Like maybe they are, some of them, because they're like, I know that the activity and opportunity that is generated from these calls outweighs, the net benefit's way better. There's more money, more opportunity, more income, but they're not like, this is the funnest thing ever.
Yeah.
No,
I agree with that.
Maybe the conversations they have on there, they find themselves in a sense of flow because naturally charismatic, enthusiastic, salespeople, curious. Does that make sense?
It does. And I can think of a handful of people straight away that I've interviewed recently that, like you say, they are doing these activities for a result rather than just for the basis of having fun and being themselves. What's your perspective on that?
What?
People that are just so, I have to do work, I have to do gym, I have to. What's your?
Well, it depends what they're sitting in front of me for. Like, I couldn't care less, actually, if that's what they want to do. But if you're sitting in front of me saying, I'm fundamentally not happy, I'm not energized, I'm not really enjoying myself and haven't done for a set period of time, then I will have a conversation around what we need to do, what might be a different way of living. Let's see if we can take the blinkers off and ask some better questions, because I think that is one of the sole problems, not just in real estate, but in human existence, is the ability to ask better questions or to just question things. Why am I doing this? I think last podcast, I didn't shut up about what game are you playing. It still rings true to me today. Like asking yourself the question, why am I doing this? What will this allow me to experience? What will this $1 million GCI goal that I've set, which is completely arbitrary, what will that allow me to experience? What does that allow me to buy? Sure, it's going to buy you freedom. Sure, you're going to have more money. Sure, you can do some more holidays, but what does that then allow you to experience? Because that's the basic answer. And so I think people only go sort of one layer deep with questions. So I think like my job is to just ask them better questions so they can have a potentially different opportunity. If people want to go hard and make, I listened to an interview the other day with one of the Sydney agents, I think it was Nick Wise and Ivan Bresic, and he was up at 3:50 in the morning. And I actually held the same perspective as Ivan. I was like, probably not something I'd recommend to everyone, but if you love it, brother, go for it. But the majority of people that I speak to in the real estate industry don't love it. I think they found like they've been competitive in sports, and then they take the same approach of like, if I do this well enough, I can get the same level of fame, success, status, money, and they learn to love it. But do they inherently love it? I don't know. I don't know. I think people love negotiation and psychology. I think that's very stimulating for people.
What are some of the better questions we should be asking ourselves if we want to have more fun and build? Because do you find, Link, that there are people, they don't know what they don't know? And what I mean by that, people may think they're enjoying life, but then there's things that they could be doing differently to enhance it? Or are people coming to you because they actually know they aren't enjoying things and they need to change?
I think the second, like for sure, like I don't particularly enjoy having conversations with people that, in a coaching sense, I mean, like if I have to work really hard to identify the problem, they're probably not in enough pain to really want to change. So generally speaking, they will be in enough pain, they know that something's not right. And they're either hit this point where they're like, fuck, now I've got to message him. I've got to do something. I have to change, you know? But to answer your question, like what are some of the questions that I would advise? It's really dependent on what their set of circumstances are. But I think like a really easy question that people just they forget about is like, when they're telling me their whole story and they go into the problem, I say, well, what is it you really want? Like, what is it you really want? I don't know. What is it you need? What is it you're feeling? What are you experiencing? What would you like to feel more of? How is it you want to be in 5 years' time? What are you saying in 12 months' time to yourself? If nothing changes in 18 months, how would you feel? What does it look like? What are you saying to yourself? Who are you hanging out with? How much money are you earning? What does that allow you to experience? How many holidays are you taking? What are you doing for fun? It's very like sometimes what does 10% difference of a level up of your life look like? What's like, they're very sometimes seemingly simple questions that open up kind of like more questions. So the best question that I ask is why? Why? Like, what's your goal?
I'll give you a goal of mine now with the podcast, because we're on the podcast, and that's to interview Tony Robbins.
Why?
My why for doing it is when I was 19, I went to a Tony Robbins seminar, and it was one of the catalysts for me taking action, changing my life, and getting me out of a period which wasn't as fun.
And so what will that specifically give you?
So it'll be like that full circle moment where it's like I've gone on my hero's journey and I've accomplished it, and then I can share that back to that younger version of myself and share.
Is there a reason why you need to interview him in order to fulfill that?
Well, if we're talking in a podcast sense, who would I love to interview? There's nobody I would love to interview more than him. So in terms of a person, because I've been through one of his seminars and it kind of kickstarted me to dream and aspire to do something like this, it'd just be like that full circle moment of interviewing your coach or your mentor.
Yeah. How would that make you feel?
It would make me feel like I've accomplished a goal, a big goal. It would make me feel like that young man that had such a hard upbringing was able to use that for something productive, and in the process can then inspire and share that to my younger version of myself, for example.
And what would that allow you to experience? Sharing that to the next version of
Yeah,
yourself.
it's like, mate, it's like a sense of fulfillment, achievement, pride, expanding beyond myself. As much as that process of getting to that goal required me to upgrade and evolve personally along this path, this mission. Like I just got back from a Graham Home Christmas party, and at this Christmas party I had so many people come up to me saying, Dan, me listening to your podcast has literally changed my financial life.
That's so good.
We had one couple that we gave away 20 grand to, like coming up to me, like hugging me. We took photos. Like, it was just, I didn't start that specifically to create that. It's just been a byproduct of me following my path. But that's been such a reward. It's just like, fuck, I think people say it all the time. Once you hit a certain level, that next level of fulfillment is when you help more people. So I'm kind of doing a bit of both. Just from this one goal. It's like, why did that even start, right? It's just my blueprint, my path.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. So like there's a series of maybe 5 questions. There's so much to know about you.
Yeah.
You know? And I think you've obviously spent a lot of time thinking about your goals and your why. And so it's very clear. But there's obviously some other threads that you can pull on, like you mentioned pride and fulfillment. Is like, is that the only way that you could feel that sense of pride and fulfillment, is reaching the pinnacle of Tony Robbins?
I think it's because it's such a big, it's like the top goal you could set in a commercial sense with the podcast. I think
Is it?
that's I think for the podcast, like
Gotcha.
who is a higher level of interviewing than Tony Robbins?
Joe
For me,
Rogan,
I see
maybe?
I see him as the top, that 0.1%.
Gotcha.
For me, that's
Yeah.
like, it's such a big goal that to get there is so inspiring. And
It's actually, it doesn't feel that far away when I think about it.
nah, well, mate, it's cool because we FaceTime Michael Lane the other day, and he actually reached out to see if we could get him on. Like every conversation, every time I share the goal with somebody, it's moving it that one step closer. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned about success is you just got to share more and get challenged more.
But also like because of the conviction that you have within that, like people are magnetized towards you and then doors open.
Yeah.
So in the setting of like asking an agent, like what is their goals? It could be a random number from their lead agent or the director or the principal that they think they need to hit, but they haven't asked these follow-up questions, which means when things get tough, how are they then going to perform? There's nothing pulling them through. So your vision is pulling you,
Yeah.
right? You're like holding on by the ropes going, fucking hell, this thing is taking me,
Literally.
holy shit. It's like wakeboarding, you got to get pulled
Literally.
up,
That's
right?
literally what it is.
But a lot of people that I find don't have that conviction when you peel back the layers. And that's not necessarily a problem, but it's one of the challenges that I see agents face that I work with.
When you identify that challenge, is it then getting them to identify what their true why is, or is it setting a different target?
Yeah, I guess I don't get them to do anything. I just ask the question.
Yeah.
Right? I think there's a series of questions that we can go into, and the questions that I would ask is based on their response. Like you mentioned pride and fulfillment, so I would follow that thread into pride and fulfillment. And I think what I learned in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, is the like these meta programs. And one of the questions is like what specifically, how specifically. So if you just like or why specifically. And those 3 questions can just kind of continue to guide people. So next time you're in a conversation, you're really good at this because you're an interviewer. So you're naturally very curious and you can pull things out of people. But there's rough handles and there's soft handles, right? So I ask questions to people that I might ask them, so tell me more about your goals. They might have something around finances that they're just not comfortable with. And so they kind of like dart around it. Oh, I want to, make a lot. Well, how much is a lot? Oh, well, like, enough to feel free. Well, how much is it to feel free? What do you need to feel free? Oh, well, I just need to take care of, I need to go on a holiday. How much are your holidays? Oh, so that's like a rough handle. So I kind of like stay away from that sort of area because they're not ready to go there.
Yeah, right.
Because there's no point trying to and I think this is one of the challenges. What I learned in breathwork specifically was like when a new client came to me and they were completely dysregulated, sleep issues, anxiety, racing heartbeat. Like if they lay down on the table, right, in clinic and I start to, facilitate them. If I notice that they don't have much capacity and they're going and start getting into an experience, like I've taken them too far within that because they're a first time breather. Why would I try and take someone to 100%? Their system can't handle it. They're not used to it. So I start at 5%. So that would be like a rough handle. So a soft handle is like someone that's open like you've thought about it. You're actually proud of the goal.
Yeah.
You know why, and you're like, fuck yeah, I can't wait to share this with everyone. So you can keep going. And that takes rapport. It takes, empathy, compassion, certain types of questions, experience. So like the set of questions that you ask can radically determine the response. So we're just reading each other, right? We're quite open. A lot of people aren't, and a lot of agents aren't either. And that's okay, by the way. Yeah. Anyone that's listening, if you're feeling like you're in the car and you're like, yeah, I definitely don't want to be talking about my goals and finances with people, I'm like, awesome. But we probably wouldn't work well together.
It's really interesting because from my experience, the more open I have become through different things, whether it be meditation, breath work, sharing my goals, plant medicine, the more I become open, the more I'm vocal with that, the better things progress and evolve. Do you think people should actively seek to become more open, or by just the way of how life naturally occurs, they will become naturally more open or not, just by the mere sheer of them just living?
So what's the question specifically? Sorry.
When you were talking about some people, you'll press them and there's a bit of resistance there. Then some people, like myself with this question, I was a lot more open. I found when the more open I have been to life, the more I can receive, and then life gets better and more fulfilling. When you're working with people, or there's people that are maybe more closed off, should these people try to actively take actions to help open themselves up, whether it be meditation, breath work, working with a coach, or do you think just by natural way of life they may or may not become open? Do you think people should invest in opening themselves up is the question?
The answer to that one is yes.
Okay.
How they do that is it's depending on the industry and what your goal is kind of irrelevant. But if you are moving towards being more open, I think that's a really positive thing. That's what I'd say. The more open that I've been, come back to the questions thing, right? If you've only ever asked 2 questions, what are there's probably minimal answers, right, that you get, or options. Let's look at it that way. There's minimal options. The more questions you ask, there's more potential options and answers, right? From that, then you can discern what is going to be the most aligned decision or option for me. So when I think about is someone better off being open or not? I say, well, do you want to have more options as to how your reality is? Yes or no? What's the likely answer?
Yes.
Of course. Would you prefer that to be a better reality for you, or a worse reality?
Better.
Better. Okay. So we can generally start to now discern what is going to be a more beneficial decision for you. Does that make sense? So, of course. But I'm never like, you should, as in you're obligated to be open. I'm like, mate, when I speak to my dad sometimes, or my brother or my sister, or even my partner, heaps of people, and they're not wanting to go where I believe would be a smart or wise decision. That's okay. In fact, I welcome that, because I'm like, great, you've made that decision. That's sick. Love it. But when someone hires me to come into their corner and coach in specific areas, not teach, ask questions in different areas, yes, I encourage to be open, curious. A lot of people, I deal with a lot of conflict, actually. Conflict management would be a big thing. Yeah. And what I find is people like to, when they get attacked or someone's coming at them, whether it's a colleague, a buyer, their actual natural tendency is to kind of wall up and then sort of go back at them on the offense. But what I like to do is seek to understand, not seek to destroy. So I get curious again around what's your intention with that question? What's your intention behind the way you're speaking right now? It's a really great question in conflict. So I just ask more questions. And if I'm not open and I'm not in the mindset of asking questions, I can't possibly now understand that person. And so I'm gonna now fall back on my patterning, my coping mechanisms, my survival strategy, which is probably on the offense. That's what I was previously, and would never come to a conclusion. And if we don't come to a conclusion, it's likely that your needs aren't getting met, my needs aren't getting met, and there's a misalignment. So how do we find more alignment? And I believe it's asking questions. Now, if you ask questions you just really don't agree, that's great. That's awesome. I love that. Do you know what I mean? I think that was a bit of a long-winded detour, but...
Sounds like for you, a lot of the work you do is about asking the right questions, and that creates answers rather than you saying you need to do this or this is right or wrong.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that sets people apart that coaches and teachers. Like teachers are teaching you something, like how to tie your shoelace. It's like, do this, do that, cross it. So like real estate coaches are great because they're like, make these calls, say this at this negotiation, say it now. You know, like it's very kind of like linear, whereas a coach is, or in my opinion, question-based. So we've got a set of tools from learning, right?
Yeah.
So breath work, nervous system, nutrition, movement, jiu-jitsu, surfing, my real estate career. There's like a set of tools that I've invested in. And so from that toolbox, I've discerned what are some important questions that allow me to use those tools effectively. And those questions I ask people. And it seems to do really well. And that's when, you know, becoming a master practitioner in NLP was so important for me. Work with my breathwork teacher, Edward Dangerfield, nervous system specialist. He's been through 2 avalanches. He sat with the First Nations in America in circle, learning their ways of sharing. And you know, so he's actually passed on his tools to me. Will Phillips, Andrew Liddell, both mentors of mine, passed on the tools to me. So now I have a set of questions and a set of understanding that's helped me navigate the world. And so that's something that I like to share and ask. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And at certain points, like, you know, if someone was like, I need to lose weight, well, it's pretty clear that there is a scientific way to lose weight. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. So it sounds like if a person comes to you with a pain point, you start by asking them a series of questions to help them identify what options could serve them best. And based on your tools that you've built over time, you can prescribe or suggest or guide them into different things to help maybe regulate their nervous system if one of their pain points is they're a bit overworked or burnt out. I'm assuming a place to start is the nervous system.
Yeah. I like the segue.
Yeah.
That's good. So like I've developed my own framework of what I believe is advantageous for a high performer that is struggling with energy, time, and happiness and quality of life.
Would you say they're the main pain points?
Yeah, I think sleep, anxiety, decision, lack of confidence with decisions is a big one, like self-doubt, and fatigue, energy, like, you know, just all over the shop, chaotic, you know, that's generally the terms that I hear. I've developed a framework, what I believe from what I've learned as to what is an advantageous framework, and I've tested that hundreds of times, and it yields results. But within each protocol, right, because they're protocols or interventions or whatever you want to call them, there's a set framework of how to like move through it. So like I always start with the nervous system and sort of health-based first. Then we look at the internal operating system. So like resetting the foundation of the human, of the agent is so important because it's like most real estate coaches or most coaches in general, if they play the hustle harder, like listening to the podcast, if someone's burnt out, right, and their nervous system's cooked and they're overwhelmed and they're not sure where to look, but this agent says, you just got to put in the hard work, right? You've just got to keep making calls and just like you're trying to stack on top of a system that is already at capacity. So even if that was to yield results, there's more demand now placed on this person. But if they haven't built the system or the tools to increase their capacity to hold that demand, what happens? Crumbles. Happens time and time again. Now, the time of which they get to crumbling varies based on the person, but at some point it always happens. And if they haven't taken a break or have been intentional about their practices and protocols, what happens?
Like you said, it just doesn't work out.
So there's a framework that like I believe this is always the most important.
So can you talk to myself and the audience, how does the nervous system work and how is it broken down simply so that people can get a gauge of where they're at with their nervous system and what are maybe a couple of protocols that we could consider utilizing on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think like that could be a whole podcast within itself. But in simple terms, you've got like your autonomic nervous system governs how you feel, how you breathe. Every time you inhale, it activates, right? Your sympathetic nervous system goes up. You feel energized. Every time you relax, exhale, you relax. if you're in a state of fight, flight, deal falls over, survival mode, generally most people in this audience will know what that feels like. They know when they're kind of operating out of survival mode or like on adrenaline. That means their norepinephrine, their hormones is just being flooded, right, with hormones. Their cortisol's up, their energy is just irregular. They're feeling irritable, angry, like anything could they could just fly off the handle at any point in time. And they'll start probably getting sick at some point if they keep doing that because their immune system starts to shut down.
Are there any situations where being in that state's productive or supportive?
Yeah, well, we need it to survive. Like we need it to. Every inhale activates us. It's bringing us energy. You want to run away from a tiger, sure, you need to get up and bolt, right? If you need to fight, if you need to defend yourself, that's a really good reason to be in that state, right?
But let's say in the general sense of real estate and performing commercially, are there any situations where you'd maybe take a client that's not in that state to test the waters in that state?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think to build resilience, you kind of need to find that edge. But if they find that edge for too long, and then just like more things start piling on top, that becomes their new norm, and then it becomes it feels unsafe to then come back to the green zone, which is relax.
Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting, yeah. I mean, we habituate as humans, right?
Yeah.
And we develop maladaptive breathing patterns on top of that system. So if we've always been like CrossFit, I use CrossFit as a good example because it's a high energy, like high octane.
Super.
When I breathe them, they're like always just breathing into their chest. They were never breathing deep down here at all, right? And you got 3 diaphragms of breath. So you got your throat, your ribs, and your pelvic floor. And how this moves determines the volume, how much CO2 is being like. There's so many different things, and it just doesn't like if you habituate to one breathing pattern, you're likely feeling one. Like your experience is likely to be representative of how you're breathing.
Yeah. It's an interesting one because I know from my experience, I was doing CrossFit there for a good couple of years. And when I was doing that level of training and intensity stacked on with the work demands and the goals I had commercially, I became aware that wasn't super supportive. It wasn't, I was kind of getting the high of CrossFit in training and this and maybe doing it out of a desire to want to change my appearance or my strength or what have you. But when I asked myself why and what's my primary goal, it wasn't actually supportive in the equation. It was kind of just like what I was doing. And it's been interesting having stopped that. And my physical activities, walking, it's maybe doing a Pilates class with Izzy. It's the intensity and demand is reduced significantly. And it's been really interesting to observe how much more productive I've been in other areas. And that won't work for everyone. And there's a period of time where I needed to do that. And that was what built me the morning, like waking up early, doing my CrossFit, gave me energy, momentum to do my work. But then I was asking, well, am I dependent on that to work? Like, am I happy? If I was like, Dan, are you happy with doing what if you have to do CrossFit or have to go to the gym in the morning to set yourself up for the day, is your day set up for success or are you just band-aiding a problem? So that's just for me, I started asking these different questions and I've noticed for me, and a lot of that comes back to being okay with changing your desires. Like if you were to say to me, mate, even at the start of this year, like if someone had said, Dan, you wouldn't be lifting weights at the start of this year, you're crazy. There's no way. I'm so identified with that type of training. There's no way. But I've shifted that desire and that belief internally and that's allowed me the space to not have to be working out, where if I want to, I can, but I don't have to. And I've switched my routine and it's allowed more energy in other areas.
Yeah.
I just felt like sharing that. But
I love that, man. It's interesting actually, like, because there's a lot of parallels between people that I work with, right? Like I had one guy recently who, the ATO was coming after him.
Sorry, bro. Do you want to open the door? Is it hot?
It's so hot, eh?
Open that door because the aircon's on and that will naturally just leave it open. Sorry, bro.
That's okay. Yeah, I have a client. He, ATO was coming after him, and his nervous system was completely shot, and he didn't he didn't say my nervous system is shot, but he was presenting with all these symptoms of like, self-doubt, ruminating mind, sleeping was hard, waking up in the middle of the night, beating heart. He then, like, to get back into shape, his answer or back into sort of rhythm was, okay, I need to wake up 5 o'clock, I need to go for a ride, 4 times a week, I need to go to the gym and do all these things. And I was like, mate, like, is that actually supporting you? Like, how will you feel doing that? Is that your belief system saying that if I do X, Y, and Z, it will support me? Or is it data saying that, hey, if I do this, it will support me? And he hadn't been for a ride or done any gym in the last 12 months because he's been so stressed. So what we did was we peeled it all back, and I just said, like, I just want you out looking at the sun. I want you looking at sunset, and we're going to get your phone away. That's it. That's all I want you to do. Tell me how that goes. And fast forward like a week, he's like, mate, I feel incredible. Why? Because you think about, like, he's now not putting pressure on himself to need to get up and go to the gym or go for a massive ride. He's getting back into sync with his sleep, in his circadian rhythm, which means his melatonin's being regulated, his cortisol's being regulated, his adrenaline's being regulated, his digestive system can be regulated. He can actually just start to come back to equilibrium. The phone away means he's not getting stimulation. He's not thinking about what's going to happen and what's this email, have I got work to do, what calls am I going to make, has this vendor come back to me, what's the negotiation at, where are we at? So there's no stimulation from 7 o'clock at night, right? And we're looking at sunset, so he's getting just incredible light for his brain. It's just like, so when we took all that away and slowed him down, and he could get back into bed and he could fall asleep, like, the body is infinitely wise. It wants to come back to equilibrium if we give it the chance. And so now, what have we done? We've introduced now a ride a week. So we're taking him back up a little bit. He wasn't eating in the morning, right? He was fasting until like 1 o'clock, or sometimes even dinner. And then he would have a black coffee in the morning. So his system was naturally stimulated, amped up on this essentially fake energy, and also like the adrenaline from what's going on, that his whole system was just jacked up and he was getting sick. So we introduced some food early in the morning again. Not early, but like, I think it was like 9 o'clock to start with. And it was some protein. Because in a heightened state of awareness, like, your body needs fat and it needs protein and it needs carbs, obviously. But when in these states, it starts to take a lot of brain power. And anyway, so nutrition was really important. Bring him nutritious food.
That's really interesting, because there's a lot of conversation around fasting and intermittent fasting. And it's interesting how you've brought that food back in the earlier stage.
Well, from my experience, what I've understood is that food is parasympathetic. So it can actually bring you back to a restful state. It's sort of like if you have a big carb meal, people fall asleep. Like, yeah, it's because you've had a big meal and like there's serotonin going through your body and you can feel tired. So anyway, we brought it right back. So we're like, okay, no more fasting. Let's get your system fueling properly. Let's get your nervous system regulated. Let's get your circadian rhythm back in check. And let's just see how you feel. Sure enough, feels fucking amazing, right? Amazing. Now he's brought in oysters. He's brought in more, some nutritious foods, more diversity. So we're starting to fuel his system and get him back into regulated state. Bringing his meals at the same time every day so his body can expect when to be fueled. Now, then we bring in maybe a bit of a work program. But it wasn't immediately, and that was over a period of time where he could, and I got him to journal every day, so we're following everything. But I wasn't saying like, you have to do this. I was like, this is an opportunity for us right here. We can either try this or we don't. Let's look at this as an experiment. If it doesn't work and you don't feel better, we can course correct. If you do, let's keep going. But of course he feels better. And I have countless stories of that where I've actually slowed them down as opposed to speeding them up. So if you hear the podcast like, yep, you got to get up at 5 a.m. By the way, I think 5 a.m. is actually a really nice time to be up at the moment. But if you need to do that and you need to go to the gym and you're not getting sunlight, you're not out breathing on the grass, you're not grounding, you're not having some food, you're stimulated first thing in the morning, right before bed, you've got these additional stresses on you, like, yeah, there's a different way to look at it. There's a different plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it sounds like for you, one of the first protocols or places to start is with the nervous system, understanding where you're positioned and getting that person back to more of a balanced equilibrium point before you're adding additional.
Yeah, I think the nervous system can still be confusing for people. So the way to think about it is just like a body reset.
Yeah.
Like you're resetting yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you're basically wiping the hard drive clear and you're starting fresh.
And then you're building on a good foundation.
Then you can start building intentionally. So it's not just like, okay, now let's chuck it all back on. Like first week of my program, everyone does no coffee. Then we remove processed sugars. Then we just start to go down the reset. I get them to clean their car, their cupboard, their fridge. We're resetting everything.
Are people able to reintroduce things like caffeine or stimulants, or is that something you're against?
It's up to them. So the question I ask is like, what has this allowed you to feel? How is your relationship to this now?
Yeah.
And usually what I'd say is people say, "No, I feel like I've earned it. I feel like I've earned to have a coffee." And like I had a client last week who was going to Sydney. He was like, "Can't wait to have a latte at this one place." And I was like, "Cool, we've done this for 1 week. The first 4 days you had headaches and you were coming over the relationship to coffee. You've had 3 days of good sleep. Is that enough for us to reset?" And when he really thought into it, he was like, "Probably not, to be honest." I was like, "What would it be like if we had 1 more week of really good sleep and clean energy where you didn't need to rely on that?" "Oh, fuck, yeah, that would be pretty good." So day 4, day 5 comes, Link, I feel amazing. I feel like I don't have a reliance. I feel like I don't even need it anymore. Awesome. Let's see how you feel next week. And it just keeps happening, keeps getting better. And then it gets to a point where there's this idea of discipline and discernment, where it's like you've been disciplined enough to understand the relationship and the effects, and then you can decide, okay, should I introduce this or not? And what happens is usually they'll introduce it and they'll come back and they'll be like, "Link, this is how I felt. Wow, I couldn't believe I noticed this crazy thing. I don't think I need 2 anymore." "Okay, what would it be like to have 1? "Yeah." "Okay, if I want to have 1, what time should I have that?
Yeah.
Do I fast before and then have coffee? Or should I eat first and then have a coffee?" And so we can have another conversation around health there and how that makes them feel.
Should people eat before coffee?
It's up to them. Like it depends, again, it depends on their, like what their system's telling us. And I think that's probably one of the most important points for me is like, how do I invite them to be able to listen to themselves more intentionally without it becoming a scapegoat? So for example, sleep would be a really important one, right? I had one client, he would always sleep in or not go to the gym. "Oh man, I really just didn't feel like it this morning." Well, you haven't been disciplined for even 1 week. Even how could you decide whether you feel like it or not? Like, what is your reference point for feeling like it? Is it your legs feel like they're aching and I can't even stand up? Do you feel sick? "Well, no, I just felt a bit tired." I'm like, well, are we going to continue to rely on how we feel to do the thing that we know is going to make us feel better in the long run, or are we just going to take the easy route? Are you taking the easy route? Look, probably I was, yeah. So that would be like a disciplined discernment where like, I don't think that there needs to be a period of discipline and rigidity. I actually believe that for you to determine yourself, is this supportive or not?
So as much as the practices are about getting you back to a more harmonic, balanced state, maybe in times getting there requires you to be more disciplined or do things outside of your comfort zone to get you back to a more comfortable state.
Yep. I think it's like, I look at it as like supportive behaviors or unsupportive behaviors, and supportive behaviors are taking us towards our end goal and unsupportive or not. So like continually relying on how you feel, but then being able to check in, like it's a fine line. And that's where like the self-awareness piece is a long journey. That's why I sort of say like, you can't just develop it immediately and be like, I know everything.
Do you find you have clients, Link, that have goals that conflict their health? For example, they want to achieve this massive outcome, but in the process of doing that, they do actions or unsupportive behavior that really can impact their health?
Definitely.
Should people be questioning their goals, or should they be questioning how they get there?
What do you think?
Both. I think there's a lot of, personally, I observe that there's a lot of people that have these goals based on fear-driven behavior. They're not necessarily their true goal that if they were non-fearful set. But I don't think people have maybe an awareness or capacity to change that. So
Why not?
let's say somebody's super self-conscious within themselves, and based on that, there's this desire to change how they look, which then puts them into this drive to go to the gym, wake up, and they're maybe doing their ice baths. They're doing all these stacked activities to achieve this manufactured outcome that they've set because they're insecure with how they are now. I think that people, like if I go from my experience, it's funny, the less I've needed to train or do something for my physique, the more it just naturally is good or better. But it's taken a while to get there, where I needed to at a stage train and transform to get that confidence.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting from my experience in that. But
To answer your question, just as you were sharing that, it popped in my mind. Like, I have an idea, philosophy that I use with myself. Because what you're speaking to is sacrifice, I think. Like, the undertone is sacrifice. Like, are you willing to compromise and sacrifice on something to get to end result? And so I think the answer is yes, we all need to do that. But we need to decide, is that sacrifice worth it? And is it something that we want to do continually or for how long? So the idea of sacrifice, like, I believe it's in Latin, it actually means to make sacred.
to make sacred.
So a lot of people think of sacrifice as like, I need to give up my friends. I need to give up something. But I look at it as like, I'm offering this away because I'm willing to make this thing sacred. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
So
does.
for example, like if someone wants a goal of $1 million GCI or even $5 million in the sense of one of these agents that I was listening to, in order for him to achieve that, he has to make sacred his work practice. And he needs to offer up his time with his partner, with his friends, with hobbies, with his morning, with his evening, everything basically, in order to make this sacred. But I would, if I had to guess, and I interviewed him, he would probably have an idea about why he wants to achieve that. Well, because I've got an investment strategy and I've got this and then I can do that. And, you know, in 10 years' time, I've got a team of 7 and I can do this. So he would be more intentional. So he's willing to play that game because he understands it. He's intentionally thought about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the payoff is, he really enjoys it. So it's not like I'm making a sacrifice. I'm like, is his health dialed? Yeah, it probably is. That's why he does the routines at 3:30 in the morning to get himself to that point. So I think it's like the question is, what are you willing to make sacred? And what are you willing to offer up as a way to make that happen?
It's a really interesting one, and it's hard because everyone's individual. But it's something I've been thinking about as I've progressed is, as humans, do we set things to make them sacred because we actually want that, or are we doing it or subconsciously, or is it somebody else's version of success?
It's probably all of them, mate.
Which is, yeah, probably. And it's like, well, then how much energy or time do we spend trying to bring awareness or intention around that? Is it we've just got to have a crack and life naturally unfolds, or should we be more diligent with this stuff, you know?
Again, I think we're trying to pinpoint this conversation to a black and white. It's really not. It's grey. There's no right or wrong here, at least from my own experience. Like if I continue to take the mentality of this is either good or bad, this is right or wrong, then I get pigeonholed pretty quick. And I then have expectations that likely won't get met. And I put pressure on that. But if I can remain humble, I have humility, and I can remain in the grey area a little bit, which is not necessarily nice at times because it's also like a bit of the unknown. But I have faith in what I believe is within alignment to my values, then I'm like, I can have faith.
That's a big one, what you said, align with your values now, isn't it?
That's probably one of the most important questions for people. It's like, if someone was watching your day-to-day actions, would they know what values you live by or what you stand for?
It's easy to have a sheet of paper with written values versus what action do you do weekly, isn't it?
What's that, sorry?
It's easy for people to just write a list of what they perceive their value versus
Yeah.
the actions you do on a weekly basis.
Correct. So like when you asked me like, who is Lincoln? And I was like, I'm intentional, I'm kind, I'm caring, I'm intense. If you look at my sport, if you look at how I live my life, my day-to-day actions, you'd be like, that's pretty accurate, I believe. Like I'm ferociously passionate with my work. I'm ferociously passionate about what I believe in. My sport, my family, like I'm intense. I'm kind. I believe I like to do the right thing by people, like morally right. I'm caring, and I like to give back. I like to offer things to my friends. I like to do things for people. I'm intentional. Like a lot of people used to probably call me like I'm like a robot, but I'm just extremely intentional, and I know what game I'm playing, and so therefore like it's very easy for me. I like to feel healthy, so that's why I take care of myself. I moved to Byron because I want to be in the sun. I want to have the lifestyle like I did in Bali and have the autonomy. You know, I wanted to live close to the ocean so I could be there every morning and be in an environment where there's sun pretty much, you know, all year round.
Yeah.
So if I'm just reflecting now, if I'm looking back at my actions, I'm like, yeah. And if I look at the balance scale right now, it's actually probably more towards business. And my demand is like, it's like redlining. Like the demand place on me is quite high.
Talk to me about that.
What part?
The demand on you is quite high. You're redlining in business.
Well, I have built myself to the point where I'm nearly at capacity with my one-to-one clients. Like I work with 17 people right now, and that changes depending on where they are in the program, one-to-one. So that's, I don't know exactly how many calls it is a day, but 4 to 5, something like that. And there's prep, then there's content, then there's managing the business, and you know everything that's around it. So it's a pretty full day, and also the sessions are intense. Like they're almost like podcasts. Like there's no phones, there's no distraction. Like it is the deepest work, deepest presence that I've like really done, and there's a sense of flow with that. But the flow, there's also like I choose to be really particular with the words I use and the words that I choose to reiterate back to you that you've shared with me to bring out something else. So there's like this deep presence, and that's like takes a lot of energy from me. It's very, it's like
you're not just running on.
You're holding
autopilot.
space for someone.
Yeah,
you know, that's sharing the deepest things.
Yeah,
and then you're in the mind. On one side, I'm like thinking about a plan. I'm thinking about like tools to help, to share, questions to ask. There's like a lot of moving parts. So I just say like, yeah, the demand on me is quite high right now. And moving from Bali to Byron, 7-month-old, we've got projects in Indonesia that require attention. It's just a lot.
So what would be some
Nothing
of your
crazy.
protocol for yourself?
Sorry?
What's some protocol that you follow yourself to manage that demand?
Pretty much exactly what I just shared with everyone. Like my phone is off from 8 o'clock at night. I'm not on my phone first thing in the morning. I'm training at the gym, but I'm not outside of like needing to do it to feel good or like just be on for work. It's like it's a more of a routine based thing for me. Then I'm for a swim with my family in the morning, get some sun, have a nice meal with some nice music at home. Like it's slow. A bit of stretching, and then that's like I just bought a steel mace. You know what a steel mace is? So it's like this big pole with like a little ball on the top. It's 4 kilos, and I stand out in the sun in my chocks, and I wave it around. It's great for shoulder health. I do it for my wrist strength as well, for my forearms. I do it where I bend over and I'm kind of putting it side to side, and it's activating my core. So I've got this like routine with the steel mace now that kind of just wakes up my whole system. Then I have a shower, and then I spend some time with Harvey. We're doing tummy time at the moment, whereas he's getting to learn to crawl. So like that's, it's to answer your question, mate, like one of my buddies, Simon Hill, asked me yesterday on the phone, he said, what do you think the biggest wellness trend in 2026 is going to be? I was like, that's a good question. And when I really thought about it, I said, I don't really have any data to support this, but I said, I think it's simplicity. I think it's simplicity in routines. I said, I think people are getting over consumed with red light panels, EMF suits, grounding mats, infrareds, finished sauna, this type of ice bath. Like coming back to like just the foundations.
Yeah.
Like sun. Like why are we even talking about that if you're not sleeping well? If you're not sleeping 7-8 hours, well, if you're not having nutritious meals 3 times a day, like if you're not getting sunlight morning and evening, if you're not able to spend an hour without your phone in the morning, it's like, why are we even having a conversation about this tech? You know? Like, what's the point of it? Because they're the biggest needle movers for cardiovascular health, you know, and so I just like simplicity, man. And I think you asked me in the last podcast, I know I'm monologuing a bit here, but
That's great. This is good.
you asked me in the last podcast, like, what's your favorite protocol? I said, walking on the beach with my partner. It's still true to this day, brother.
I would agree with you.
It's still true to this day. I can't fucking wait to get down to the beach with my fiance and my son and go for a fucking swim.
It's the best.
It's the best, man, in the sun. I'm like, if I could do that every single day, that would be the one thing.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like amazing. And I got a videographer here. We literally did that this morning. Like, I do that every day. And everyone can't do that, so I get it. But you can do a version of it.
For you, yeah. And it comes back, I think, to setting boundaries around your time and your calendar and inserting things first before the demands take place.
I had just another one thing that's been massive. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, please.
It's been my phone health. It's
Your
been my
phone
phone health. So I look at phone health as like, what's my relationship to my phone? And it's something I've implemented with clients now as well. Like one of the first things we do is like we audit their phone health. And what's the routine with phone when you get home? What's the routine with phone? I can't believe we're having a conversation about routine with phones, but that's like what we need to do. You have that conversation. What are you doing with your phone in the morning? Where is it? Is it next to your bed? Is it within arm's reach? Or is it across the room? Is it a tech bed? Do you sit in there on your phone before bed? Is your couch now the tech area? Like, where do you sit on your phone the whole time? When you get in from the door, where do you place it? Is it in the drawer in the study, or is it in your bedroom? So I get really particular about these things because like that I believe is the biggest distraction right now. And if you didn't, so the next question is, if I'm on my phone, well, what am I doing?
What could you be doing?
What could you be doing? And like one of the guys asked me, they go, so what should I do now? I said, I'm not telling you what to do. I said, I want to see what you feel like is the best decision for you.
Like for example, for me, it's this before bed's a great solution, like alternative. Like, what do I want to achieve? How was my day? Little notes that can keep me present with my journey. I found a lot of value in.
That's awesome, man. You know, I got some guys, mate, like they're doing breath work, they're meditating, they've got prayer, they've got all these things, and that's amazing. And for a big part of my journey, I did that as well. Like, I used to journal every day, and I used to write freedom of expression at the end of every page, because that was the most important thing to me at the time, was being able to express freely who I was, my authentic self, after being in real estate where I felt like I needed to be like this. I wasn't forced to be like that. I felt I needed to be like this. So it was like breaking free. So I think it's a perfect reminder, definitely, there's many different ways. That's the thing.
You work with some of the best operators in Australia in business and in the real estate space. What are you learning from these guys? And what are you teaching them?
I think
coaching.
What I'm learning is like the power of intentionality and commitment is just like so important. And action, obviously. So like knowing where they're going and being intentional about every little thing so that becomes inevitable. You can't lose if you do these things. And just it's time and time again, like you make time for that, you reflect on that, reflect on the questions that we've spoken about, you get clear on this idea of what game we're playing, and then you reverse engineer it and you become intentional about all the things that are going to get you there. And the common objection to that is like, oh, I don't want to feel like a robot and like I've got to do all these things. I'm like, well, don't, because you obviously don't have the same goal. Like if you want to shovel shit and that's your goal, what do you need? Well, I'm going to need a good shovel. I'm going to need a good hose. Okay, and so how do you become a good, I don't know, you break it down. But then you do those things to get good at it. So I think the intentionality and thinking about where they're going, what they want to achieve is like just so important. And they don't rely on how they feel.
Don't rely on how they feel.
Like in the sense of like, it's a really tight rope. And that's what I was getting at before. Because like, of course you got to check in with what you need and how you're feeling. Like if you're feeling sick, of course, but like, it's like not a good day or a bad day. It's just kind of like, we just do the work.
Yep.
The work. You know, and if that's at 80% capacity, then it's at 80% capacity, but you do the work. It's not like, it's not the point to action, the time from like thought to action is drastically shorter with these people. So in the morning at 5 a.m. when it's cold and it's hard and you think about, do I want to go to the gym? It's like not even a thought, do I want to go to the gym? It's like, no, this is just what we do. And they're scheduled and intentional enough that they don't get to the point of like, oh, I've overtrained because, well, we don't overtrain because we've scheduled that in. We thought about that already.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's like,
You're trying to assimilate that into a more simple version?
I don't think I need to. I think you said it quite well. What value has someone like a Will Phillips, for example? What maybe are their blind spots that you've helped them unravel or progress with?
I'll share what he told me. So, I coach 4 of his team members, and Will said to me, you know, and this is really nice actually. I actually really loved hearing this because I don't get much reassurance in my industry, and I actually do really well in reassurance. He said to me, Link, you've actually been so valuable to me because I don't have anyone else to speak to about these things, about what, you know, his team are going through to a certain degree. Like I don't tell them everything, and provide him a perspective that is unique. Because I coach people from inside real estate, outside of real estate, from not as a real estate coach, but from the nervous system perspective, from from a martial arts perspective, from all these different sort of fields. And he said, Link, like it's really valuable to have a different perspective. I think I'm not going to get into like what are the blind spots that he has because I don't feel like that's important for me to share to everyone. But I will say that what I've noticed is that no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. And yeah, that's like pretty simple, man. I don't know. Does that make sense? Like I don't really feel like getting into what are his blind spots.
It was more, I guess, the reason I asked was I'm just curious is like, it's inspiring that even people that are the top are still seeking ways to evolve and improve. And it's just out of curiosity, like what are things that they're doing differently that if I did could improve
Well, I think
my situation?
one thing that he's shared with me is like the leadership part of it. Like, how can people be more open to asking him questions, and how can he protect his time and be more intentional with his staff so that they feel like they can communicate with him and ask questions whenever, but it doesn't impact his time. Because that's a common thing that I see with not just Will, but like many directors or lead agents is like they want to have a door. He doesn't have an open door policy, but like a lot of people have an open door policy and then feel kind of like overwhelmed by how much time is being sucked from them. And then to navigate that conversation and to have a boundary around that and to make that clear with all the agents in the office and still feel like they're able to give enough back training wise so that they're also developing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And that's hard. It's hard to do. But it's possible. It's definitely possible. And I think that's where the communication piece is so important of how they communicate what their needs are. Hey, I need, I'm struggling with X. I feel this. When are you available to support me with this? As opposed to just being like, hey, fucking 37 Smith Street, like buy it and then someone's going to call up. What the fuck?
Yeah.
It just distracts everyone.
Yeah.
So I've like, I think an urgency procedure within emails is great as well. Like, so an email policy with the urgency level. Really helps.
What else does Mocha stand for? What other if someone was to come to Lincoln and Mocha as a client, what can they expect in terms of a process or a framework?
What can they expect in terms of a process or a framework?
Let's say someone's coming to Mocha because they've identified a pain point they want to improve. Can you share the Mocha journey experience? What's that look like?
Yeah, so essentially, as I said before, we'll start with the vital reset, which is your energy operating system. So sleep, nutrition, daily energy, home life, your morning to evening rhythm. We build out what I call as a personal renewal plan. So we look for the next 12 months ahead. We identify where are all the periods that you're having a break. And I have like a structure for that. So around school, like holidays and every 6 weeks, 1 day off. So I have all these like little kind of references or pillars that you need to hit. And then we work out the total days that you're going to be working for the next 12 months. And then when we go into, I've got a performance calculator that I have that they can punch in all their numbers and it spits out, basically how many calls they need to make. Like we get really granular with the details based on how many days you're going to be prepared to prospect and work. And I do that because I think a lot of people start with their goal first, as in their numbers, and then try and fit in their life around it. And it doesn't work that well. So if we actually work out like what life are they wanting to build and how much time does that take them, and then work out how they're going to build that around that, then we can start to get a little bit more detail with the months that you're going to be having, when you're going to be more busy, when you're taking time off, and just accounting for all these sort of periods. So we get that sorted, and then we move into your internal state, so your self-belief, your self-talk, your mental clarity, and your vision, your North Star, your core values, so your reference points for how you make decisions. And that's called your internal operating system. And then we move through to the excellence operating system. And the excellence operating system is how well are we delegating, what's our calendar management, how is our email management, what's our phone health like. And yeah, we just keep working through the business as well as you. So the bottlenecks of the business. I'm not really a scripts and dialogues type of guy. I leave that for a real estate coach. But in terms of how to effectively delegate and prioritize and to understand what is the most high leverage move for you and why that may not be happening, we start to attack that. And that's sort of like the three pillars. So your energy, your health, the vital reset, your internal operating system. So like, for example, you might get a new phone case, right, which looks good. But if your iPhone is still operating on the old update and you haven't updated, there's still going to be some lag. So we sort of basically upgrade the iPhone, upgrade your internal operating system to match it. And then we get to the operational side.
What's something that helps upgrade an operation system? How do I increase capacity?
Well, I think by virtue of getting clear on your health and your energy, it makes everything else easier. So it's kind of like the domino effect, right? Like, do you know what the domino effect is?
Yeah,
obviously?
yeah.
Yeah, but something that's half its size can knock over that, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So if we can knock over, say, for example, your phone health at home, sleep's now better.
Yeah.
Sleep's better, now morning routine's better. If morning routine's better, likely to make better decisions with food. Then energy, more productive. So you build capacity.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's the small things that then lead to slightly bigger.
Correct. And so by the time we get to your operational, like your organization and prioritization, it's not overwhelming to you when we're trying to fit more into the calendar. Like we've already blocked out everything that we need that's really important to your health for the next year. And we know how many prospecting days you have in the year and when they're likely to be most busy throughout the year. So it's kind of all organized. Does that make sense?
It really does.
And like how I like to think about it, mate, is like when I was getting into swimming back in Finland, I worked out very quickly that the only way to get faster or to get to my goal quicker was to increase my power and to reduce my drag through the water. Does that make sense? So how much force can I generate and how aerodynamic can it be through the water? It's the same thing with real estate and agents. Like if you want to go faster, we can increase your power so we can output how many calls you're doing, and we can reduce the drag, get rid of all the distractions and leakage. that make sense?
It's a really good analogy.
And so health is sort of the first component of that. Energy is the first component with that. How we're thinking about these things is the first component. So, but it seems like a lot, the program that I do, and it is, but it's also protocol based. So you could come to me, or problem specific, bottleneck specific. So you could come to me and say like, I'm dealing with, I've got a management issue, and we get into the details, and you're like being reactive with them, and we usually find that the reactive is a deeper issue of how you think about yourself, the triggers that you're getting, and also that you're not sleeping so well at home. So rather than trying to attack the management problem right now, we get into the best possible space for you to be able to handle that issue. And then we can work through the issue. Because if their capacities are like at zero, how are they going to handle a really hard conversation that's emotionally taxing?
So sounds like almost as best you can, you're going to the root.
Like 100% of the time.
Yeah.
That's
That's a symptom of
Of course, but this is the kind of the problem that I have with coaches in the industry. It's like you want to make more money. So the answer is to make more calls and get more organized at work. But you're fundamentally not in a good shape. Like your health is you're fucking taxed. And you've got another kid on the way. And you've got, you're doing more deals than you did the year before. What are you going to do? Do more calls? That's not the answer.
This is actually, I'm really curious your answer on this. We've talked a lot about ways we can improve life or get more intentional is getting clear with our goals and the actions required to get there and improving our nervous system and our base and capacity. What do you think's the highest, like that's one way of living and operating. What's the highest purpose of life, or what's the highest perspective we can be on with life?
I couldn't answer that, and I'm probably not even going to try because my answer is going to be different. I think like I'm still figuring that out. Yeah, I'm still trying to determine like what actually is
the thing we should focus on.
What I would say is that like as I've taken action to make my life, as I've looked to move with more ease through life, my life's gotten more enjoyable. And that ease hasn't necessarily come from doing just easy things. So as I've put my energy into things that are tough and hard, I've tend to find that like everything becomes easier. I have more ease with life, like more things come to me. Like Lo calls me a manifestation king all the time. Not because I'm just like sitting there manifesting, but because I try my very best to, like I almost get emotional saying it.
Really?
Yeah, because like I'm trying my best, trying my best to make decisions that are going to make my life more enjoyable. And because of that psychedelic experience, like life was pretty hard. Like it was tough, it was the bottom. I was at a real dark place. So I do my best to make decisions that are going to be supportive for myself and for my family. I don't get emotional about it, but it's the truth, That's what I care for. Not to try and make everything perfect, but just like, how can we be solid?
What type of an impact's it had on you the more you've been solid and worked through ease?
More opportunity, more connection. Like, look at this, man. Sitting, like, come on, what? We bought a place in Byron. Like, how the fuck did that happen? I have a beautiful son. Like, whoa, like a healthy son. I'm so blessed, man. It's abundant in my life.
Congrats, bro.
Yeah, and like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to say it out loud, but I'm like, I'm fucking happy about that. Fucking work for it. Like my partner, man, she's an absolute weapon. She's an absolute weapon. And like worked so hard for 9 years, built an incredible business, still has an incredible business with incredible people around her. She's literally, she's delivered on what her vision board was, you know? And I'm like, she's my partner. I got that. That's amazing. I can't believe that. Got you, Tom, great videographer. Like, I don't know, man. Things just seem to be flowing. I don't know what else to say. I really don't, man. Like,
I love it.
So, like, and that's probably why I have conviction with people and I come across as intense in these moments, because I'm like, I just fucking know that when you put yourself first, because I've put myself first, and you make aligned decisions, and I make aligned decisions, I get rewarded. I don't know, man. And I don't like, even this idea of having podcasts is interesting because it almost is like, oh, I am the self-proclaimed guy that has the answers when I get on. I'm like, I'm still figuring this out just like fucking you are, mate. Just like every person that's listening, they're just figuring it out. Just having a go.
Just having a crack.
Just having a crack, man. I don't know. And the people that I work with feel so aligned to me. I fucking love my clients, man. Like, I really do. I love this business. And I love being able to change the culture or doing my bit. I just love it. I don't fucking know.
I love it.
I love it, dude. Like, I got a message from one of my clients this morning and he was making a healthy protein banana bread yesterday. And this was a guy that was having Coke every single day, emotionally eating, and we've been on the path for 12 and a half months, maybe a bit longer, nearly close to 18. And he's come from here, man. He bought 2 properties this year, did more GCI than the year before. He's been on more dates than he ever has. He's lost weight. Like, man, he's fucking killing it. And he's sending me photos of his screenshots of his Whoop, doing zone 2 cardio, 15 minutes. He's doing a high-intensity circuit, and he's killing it. And I'm like, bro, that's sick. I fucking love that.
That's awesome.
I don't know. And it's like, it just keeps happening.
What's been the biggest lesson? I know you don't like that particular type of question, but what needed to change with Link after that psychedelic experience?
I just had to get real with myself, man. That's it. I just had to get real and soften myself. Like, I'm fucking human, I'm human. Things can happen. This is life, got to surrender to it. And keep working. I mean, that was the biggest lesson, is make better decisions or make the best possible decision that I can. I think one of my buddies taught me this. He said you've got your consciousness and the quality of its contents.
And the quality of its content?
Yeah. So what? And I remember he said that to me. I was overlooking the Sydney Harbour Bridge in Point Piper, I think. And we're at the beach there, and I was going through a hard time, and I was questioning real estate. And he said, mate, I can't remember what he was, but he was like, you've got your consciousness and the quality of its contents, and they're so important. So do you know what I mean by that? You've got your consciousness and what you take in. And that was such a big lesson to me, because then I started looking at how am I speaking to myself? What am I reading? What am I watching? And I remember this specifically because my roommate at the time was fucking stuck on YouTube every night, and I was in there reading the autobiography of a yogi. And I was reading Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And I was meditating next to my little fucking tree that I bought in my room in Rose Bay, And come full circle, I love YouTube, by the way. Spend a lot of time on YouTube. But that was the lesson. It was this kind of I can change this if I want. And yeah, actually saying it out loud, that's it. I can change, I can be, I choose. It's a choice. Everything's a choice. It sounds obviously so simple, but that was the profoundness of all of it was I can choose how I want to be.
That's awesome, man. Congrats.
I mean, I'm sure many other people have come to their own conclusions and same conclusions, man, you know?
And to wrap things up, bro, for the people that are listening that maybe are going through a pain point, their nervous system's out of whack, they're overstimulated, what's one piece of advice you would share to that person now?
What you're not changing, you're choosing.
What you're not changing, you're choosing. Oh. Mate, this was a fucking great podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it, honestly.
I appreciate you getting real and raw and sharing, and I know that there were parts that for you. It's one of my favorite parts about doing this is holding space for people to get that out and just and because there's so many people that will listen that will be able to resonate and connect with that and hopefully inspire transformation. So thank you for being vulnerable enough to share your truth and your journey, and hopefully this is well received. If it's not, that's also okay too. But for anyone that wants to learn more or connect, how do they?
Send me a DM on Instagram.
DM the big link on Instagram.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing though, because when I say my partner's a weapon, it sounds pretty intense, as I said.
She's beautiful. She's such a beautiful soul.
She's such a beautiful soul, and I'm so grateful to you, Lo, if you listen to this. And yeah, the people that I choose to have in my inner circle are so important, and I think that's like just so critical because it's your energy, it's your time, it's your people, you know. So thanks, man. I appreciate you. I actually really appreciate you.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, dude, you're actually a really good human.
Really?
Yeah, I was saying this to Will the other day. I said, man, Daniel's a very good human. I've got a lot of time for you.
Appreciate you, bro. Likewise.
And I love what you're building. It's so inspiring. It really is. From like the way you ask questions, I know you wanted to finish the podcast, but
no, this is good.
The way that you ask questions, the way that you care, and the way that you're real, I really trust you.
Thank you, bro.
And that's a really important trait for me, is to trust people. So I wanted to say that to you, man.
Thanks, man.
You're a legend.
Appreciate that, bro. It's nice, like you said, when you got that message, bit of, it's nice to get something you receive because you don't get that often, right?
Yeah.
Appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, you're awesome. Keep it up. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another Both Sides podcast. Just want to say a big thank you for the support up until now. If you've got value from the episode, could you please go like and follow us on the social platforms, for example, Spotify and YouTube, as that will help us continue to get better quality guests. Bye for now.